Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. I thought I'll, share my work a little bit, give you a little background, and then ultimately I'll also show you a film that I made as an ethnographic practice. So, just to give you the context and the scope of my work, because ethnography is discipline that it has been it's a method used by many disciplines, by humanities and by anthropologists. And so what happens? So the question here is what happens when art and ethnography come together, because that's a question we may have in our minds. So what I do is what ethnographer normally does, is base themselves in the context of the culture that they are, interacting with, engaging with, and trying to understand and study it. And they do it over an extended period of time, and then ultimately they write a report, or it comes out as a book. So what I do is, and there are many ways in which you kind of get the, you get to understand the, participants, and you analyze what they have told you, So, but how do you even access that kind of information from people? So people use many methods. They use observation. They talk to people. They have interviews. In my case, I found that doing participatory filmmaking got me this access to people. In a way that even when you take live action camera, it creates this subject. There's a power, equity is not there because they are very vulnerable. Whereas when they have created their own visual records and we animate them and we use their voices to animate their art, in a way it becomes less subject to that kind of power equity, So that's what I experienced. And when you're making the film together, that you stop being this other, because you're trying to do it together. And in this process of making, we learn about each other. It's not only them, me learning about them, but even them learning about us. So we are equally vulnerable in that sense. So I found this as a interesting process, and I would like to share how did I arrive at it, because it wasn't something that I thought from the very beginning as to that I would be doing this, So when I was a student, I made a film, with Madhubani art, and it was I had gone to a craft mela, and there were these women who had come from Madhubani, and they had created these paintings on dowry, dowries, anti-dowry paintings, and I thought that was very exciting because I never wanted to be an animator, because I thought animation was all Disney, and I was not very fond of Disney. I didn't know how to make cute faces. I was very bad at drawing cute faces. So I wasn't at all keen. But when I was studying painting in Baroda, my teacher pushed me to go and study animation. Said, you will be better at animation. And I thought, oh, he doesn't think I'll ever make it as an artist. So he's sending me off to NID to study animation. And when I was there, we had a teacher who was from Disney. He was a lovely man, but only wanted us to do that kind of, art. So I thought, okay, I got a fellowship. I'll do it for 1 year, 2 years, and I'll get out. I'll go back to my painting. But he went off, and another professor came from the UK, and he kind of said, he showed us films from various places, like from Poland and from the Film Board of Canada, and they were so exciting. And then I said, okay, like this kind of animation I would like to do, I don't want to do that Disney kind of thing. And so the first serious film I made was this one, which today, I mean, it looks very basic, but at that time it was something that I did, with the women. And then what was exciting was how to translate everything was not there in the paintings. So, and also in their storytelling, in the end, what happens is the family goes to the police, and the police comes and takes this guy away who's asking for dowry, then he maafi mangos and all. And so they say, okay, they forgive him and the girl gets married. So I thought, oh God, now that is that's problematic. So then the whole notion of what is participatory, happens because you also bring in your perspective. You decide like, okay, this is where their narrative ends. This is where my narrative is going to end. So I changed things. So that was my first attempt at. I didn't know that is what I was doing. I mean, this is in hindsight that I can say this. The other film that I worked on after that was with my teacher, K.G. Subramaniam. I was very fond of his illustrated book called Summer Story. And I thought how wonderful it would be to animate his painting, his art, to get into his head, how does he imagine things and all that. So he was very reluctant at first. Don't make me a kauva into a koyal. He told me, like, okay. So somehow I got his permission. And then in the end of this, he said to me, it's very nice, I like what you've done, but you should do something of your own as well. You should also create your own imagery. So many years later, I did that. I made a film about my father on the partition. And because he was a refugee, they didn't come with any kind of artifacts or photographs or nothing. So it was only his memories that I was interpreting, and because he was from the textile mills, I decided to use cloth as a way to tell his. And I found this group of women who could do this embroidery. So I would sketch and give them the cloth, and then they would, like actually create the artwork, which then we would, animate. So because by this time we had computers, I was actually able to animate cloth. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to do this, in the old method of filmmaking in the past. So what I learned by doing this, was that this approach, it brought together many things. It brought, the hand and the machine. It got, me with my father and me with these women, so there was this kind of collaboration. So we were all kind of invested in sharing this narrative. And so you have, there is the drawing. So you have the drawing, then it goes into this, then it goes into the machine. So there was all this kind of lot of coming and going happening over there. And what I learned from this experience was that everybody claimed it. So what happened when I was showing the film to them, you can see that image over there, all the women, first it was Nina Ben's work. Then it became the character, Mukund. Then lastly, when we were showing the film and Mukund was going on the bicycle, they would look at that lady who created the applique and said, "Jo tamaro piece jai chhe." So there's your piece, going past. So from that, what I learned was that it was this is what I enjoyed about the filmmaking process, was this kind of co-creation, co-owning it. And that is what kind of set my thing for the next project, this is the film I will show at the end of this little introduction. So this film is, again, they had seen Mukund and Riaz, so they said they had created, in Kutch after the earthquake, they had created a whole lot of narrative panels on the earthquake, and following the earthquake, making the images for the earthquake, they kind of recalled other memories of the migration, the partition and things. So a whole lot of pieces they had created, and they wanted me to tell their story, So I spoke to like 4 people in depth, like spent time with them. This is Meghi Ben. She came from Ratnal and she settled in Sumrasar. They all sort of come from various places and they settle in this town called Sumrasar Sheikh in Kutch. And this is her art piece that we used for the film. Then you have Rani Ben, and that's both, if you see, both have created their memories multiple times, multiple spaces are being represented in these art pieces. And this is Rani Ben's work. And then this is Prakash Bhai, her son, who passed away some years ago. And when he came, they migrated when he was like 8 years old or something. And this is Judy Frater, who came as a researcher and then settled in there. So basically, what they were talking to us about was this whole journey to self-identity. From being refugees to becoming artists, from a caste identity shifting to a craft identity, and from the craft identity to the artist identity. So it was a lovely sort of a passage which could only be learned by having so many conversations with them. And what we did was spend a lot of time with them. We hung out basically, and whatever they said we videotaped and recorded and then transcribed everything. And then from this we teased out the sentences that kind of formed a conversation between these 4 people. So these are the 2 ladies, and this is me back then. And it would start with going every day in the morning and say, "Tame aayi gya? Haan, main aayi gya. Cha pisho?" So you have tea, and then slowly the day sort of unravels, and you start talking about the work, and then the way they start showing their work around, which I found very cinematic. In the way they would talk about their work and the way they would show it, it was like as if you were watching a film. So I could see the relationship between what I do and how they tell their stories. These are the representations of the earthquake. This one on left you see, and that one is about the partition. And what was interesting is these conversations that I had told me things that I would have not noticed. If you see the image on the back over there, you see that white band in the middle. So this side is India, that side is this side is Pakistan, that side is India. And that white band in the middle is the desert, which I would have never known had I not asked. So I feel that when we speak to the people, we have to ask them. We cannot only rely on our own, just because I can see doesn't mean it makes its meaning clear to me. So these are things to be learned, and that is what, this whole process I learned a lot, just talking to them. And in the film, we have their own voices, plus the voice, they also talk about each other, they talk about themselves, and we try to kind of integrate the two. And what I found very interesting was how this cloth became a portable territory. It was a territory they reclaimed, that the territory they had lost. The land that was lost, no longer theirs, whether it was migration, whether it was the earthquake, whatever was dear was gone. And the way they reclaimed it is by putting it in this cloth and kind of, made it permanent, like it exists no matter what. And that I found very fascinating. And also the way they organize their spaces. We are sharing aesthetic space because we are trying to recreate that for animation. We cannot animate this directly, it is too complex. So but to have the same sense of smell, the space, the orientation, like this is our version of it. Because in animation, people are moving. So when this character, everything has to be choreographed. So if this character is going to go there, this character should fill that space so that the tension in the spaces is retained. Otherwise it becomes empty. So that was the challenging part of the animation over here. And we worked with, and that has become my approach now. I only work with found material. I do not create anything. My creation lies in like putting things together rather than and telling what, trying to tell what somebody's trying to tell, and trying to hear what are they trying to tell. So there's a lot of interpretation, there is a lot of, teasing things out of conversations and that kind of thing and putting it together. So this is where it all started, like just work with whatever is available. But the only thing that we missed was their self-portraits, because I felt that that was something that they needed to be present not only as a voice but also as a image, you know. So I asked them to do their self-portraits, and they were like, okay, like when do you want it? I said, whenever you can finish it, you know. So they didn't sleep. They made it in overnight. They created this, and both of them, their representations are very interesting because she created her community identity, because she created herself like this, and then next day she said, "वो piece वापस दे दो मुझे." I was like, oh no, she wants it back. Like, why do you want it back? She says, just give it to me. I will bring it again. I forgot to put my bangle that tells that I am from this community. So she took it back and she put that white, you know, bangle. And this lady, she just made herself in one piece of cloth, but she put this gold chain. See, she's wearing it. And I said, oh, this is nice, you put this gold chain. She said, yes, I'm very proud of it. It's the first thing I bought after I sold one of my narrative panels. I could afford to buy gold chain. Because from the place where they came from, you know, there they were considered very low caste. They were not allowed to wear shiny clothes. They were not allowed to wear jewelry. And here she had the freedom, you know, to exercise her freedom to wear what she wants and not be, you know, controlled by that. So in this whole process of working together on, you know, the whole idea of, you know, working together and making films together, it helps, I mean, it makes a researcher understand something, a community much closer, and I thought very interesting to learn about them than by just asking questions. Because when you just ask questions, people sometimes tell you what they think you want to hear, you know. But when you're making things together, somewhere they lose that self-consciousness, you know, like you just become yourself, you know, and like we talk about being a fly on the wall, or some of my friends have written a book called Fly in the Curry, to be so immersive, you know. So this is one way of, you know, being immersive. And what I'd like to do now is show you my film, and then we can have a conversation, yeah? So this is the film we're going to see.
આપણે નવો કામ કરવો હોય ને તો આપણે ડિઝાઇન નવો ઉઠાડવો હોય તો પછી એવે વિચાર કરીએ રાતના સુતા સુતા આસ્તે આસ્તે રાતના વિચાર આવે દિવસના કામ થાય આમ દીરોજ વિચાર નથી તો વિચાર દીરોજ કામ બોલ ચાલ મેં જો રાતની નીંદર ન કરો વિચાર કરો કી બનાવો કેવે ને કમ કમ આ પીસ બનાવ્યો અમારે આદિગમનો ઘર અમારા છે નકશો અમારે મેં બનાવ્યો પહેલાં હું આ અમારે ઘટી મોંગળે જાતો અમારે ઉતાક છે આપણે તો ખબર ન રહે ને આપણે ત્યાં જોઈ જાય ને આ મકાન છે આ વાતા એવો જેવો થાય ને આપણને રણમાં એ બચારા હેરાન થયા હતા એમાંથી ઉપડ્યા હતા એના મકાન છે એનું ગામ છે अपने भारत में पाकिस्तान में भी लड़िया हो गई तो अभी मैंने कहीं संबंधी क्या नहीं लड़िया ये लड़िया पर भारत अमी रहता ही पर अमी की भारत में जाओ रण में ढळ्या तो रात ना निकली आया दी उगो ने अमी रण उतर्या
ત્યારે હું નાનો બાળક હતો મતલબ 8 વર્ષની મારી ઉંમર હતી
સાથે અમે એક ગાડો કર્યો હતો અને અમારી ઊંટડી
એટલે ક્યાંક જઈ રહ્યા છે ખ્યાલ છે પણ આવો ખ્યાલ નહીં કે હવે ઘર છોડીને જઈ રહ્યા છીએ
ना वादे कि अपनो भारत से तुम कम आओगे
તો અમને કીધું કે ચલો હવે તમને મતલબ આખર શું કરો તો અમે એમ કીધું કે અમને ગમે એવું હિન્દુસ્તાનના ખૂણામાં નાખો પણ પાકિસ્તાનમાં નથી જવું અમારે હિન્દુસ્તાનમાં રહેવાનું તો એ લોકો કીધું કે તમારે કચ્છ જવું પડશે ઠીક છે અમે કચ્છ આવીએ અને આ રીતે અમે કચ્છમાં આવ્યા અને કચ્છમાં અમે મતલબ અહીંયા જુરા કરીને ગામ છે અહીંયાથી 15 કિલોમીટર ત્યાં કેમ્પ બનાવી દીધો જ્યારે અમે આવ્યા ત્યારે કાંઈ મતલબ ત્યાં
आया तो इसे डूंगर में ली कटारा गया तो मोड़ सुधाई के एक किथे पीड़ी जाए ते लोगों ने
कोई व्यक्ति नहीं साव गुजर मतलब जंगल जेवो विस्तार धीरे धीरे अमे लोग जे कहीं वहाँ बगड़ा में झाड़मांथी जे मतलब झाड़ कासमांथी जे भूंगा वगैरह बनावी पछी आम मतलब धीरे धीरे टाइम पसार थतो गयो एम थोड़ा टाइम पछी पिताजी त्या पाकिस्तान में पण शिक्षक था एमने स्कूल शुरू करेली अने अमे लोग पछी अमारी मतलब प्राथमिक शिक्षण अहींयाथी शुरू थयुं અમે 1980 સુધી જુરા કેમ્પમાં એઝ એ રેફ્યુજી હતા એના પછી ગવર્મેન્ટ બદલાણી અને 1980માં અમને સિટીઝનશીપ મળી અને અમે લોકો સુમરાસર ગામમાં આવ્યા
સુમરાસર આવી ને તો મને 18મું વર્ષ બેઠો તો ને 17ના ઉતર્યો ને 18મું બેઠો એમાં મારા લગ્ન આ મારું ઘર છે હું રત્નાનું પિયરમાં મારા બાપનું તો આ મારા પિયરમાં ખેતીવાડી એમાં કરતા પછી ધરતીકંપ થયો ને તો રડવા માંડ્યા બધા કે આ મારી મમ્મી ઊભા છે તો અમે નાના હતા તો અમને બધી ભેગા કરીને આમ કે રડો નહીં કે
તો એ રીતે આપણે મતલબ 2001 ભૂકંપ આવે ને એ એટલો મતલબ માનસિક રીતે માણસ એમાં આવી ગયા કે કોઈ જોયો હોય નહીં ભૂલી શકે
After the earthquake of 2001, 2 different people independently asked us to do essentially what's narrative work or expressive work.
જો આ જે વાર્તાનો કામ આમ તો શું છે કે પેચ વર્ક તો એ મતલબ અમારા પરંપરાગત કામ છે પણ એમાં એક વાર્તાને લઈને કામ કરવું એ ટ્રેડિશનલ નથી.
After this project, which I thought was over, Rani Ben and Meggie Ben came to us and said, can we do another one?
મારે મન મેં એવી ધારી મેં કીધું મારે કલા રક્ષા બનાવી છે. મારો દીકરો પ્રકાશ ભુજમાં ગયો.
I came to do research on silk embroidery. So I went into a tailor shop, and there was a young man with a beautiful silk embroidered bag. So I went up to him and I said, "Where did you get that bag?" And he said, "Ghare." So I said, "Ghare aun chu."
પોસ્ટમેન કામ ભલે આવો. તે બધી અમારી મતલબ એક કારીગરી દ્વારા જ પરિચય થયો.
One day, Diaban, the younger sister, looked up from her work and said in exasperation, "Why are you studying us? Why don't you help us?"
સાચી રીતે જોઈએ તો કલા રક્ષાની અહીંયાથી જ શરૂઆત થયેલી. અમે લોકો જ્યારે સંસ્થાની શરૂઆત કરેલી ત્યારે 20 કારીગર આ ગામમાંથી જ શરૂઆત કરેલી, આથી 15 વર્ષ પહેલા. અત્યારે અમારી સાથે અમે લોકો 1000 કારીગરો સાથે કામ કરી રહ્યા છીએ. 25 ગામડાઓમાં અમે લોકો કામ કરી રહ્યા છીએ અને કારીગરો માટે અમે લોકોએ એક ડિઝાઇન સ્કૂલ પણ બનાવેલી છે.
And you can see in how they speak about their work.
જો ઓલી બેન પીસ કેવો આવ્યો?
આ જુડી છે ને અમારો પીસ જો કે સારો છે.
આ મારો દીકરો સામજી અહીંયા છે ને ઘેર છે. આમ સામજી મારો દીકરો છે. હા સોલરની સંભાળ લે. આ આપણી કલા રક્ષા. પછી આ ઓફિસ પ્રકાશન બે. પછી આ દુકાન છે વેચાણ કરવું છે અને આ પ્રકાશભાઈ દુકાન. આમાં આ એને હિંચકા આપણે ચાલી છે. પાછળ 4 જણા બેઠા છે.
પોતાની રીતે એક બોલવાની એમનામાં ક્ષમતા વધે છે, પોતાની વાત કહી શકે છે.
આમાં તો મને મજા આવે. જો હાંજ થાય તો જાણે કે દીધું કે રાતનું કરા કે દીનું કરા કે મજા જ મજા પડી ગઈ. એ બંધ ના કરા જાણે સમજો એવો મજા આવે.
So I can show the artwork. This is not the artwork, because that belongs to them, I just commissioned this lady to make me one piece. So this is the kind of, you can have a look. Maybe somebody can show this around. This is Maggie Ben's work, so there's more embroidery in this.
Okay.
If you see Rani Ben's work, there's more patchwork. So they still retain their.
But the materials changed?
Obviously. Yeah. Because earlier, soup embroidery was done because they were not allowed to wear jewelry or shiny clothes. So they created this soup embroidery which looks like satin, which looks like silk.
They use heat for it, no?
Yeah. So they did in Sindh when they were there.
That's a caste.
It's a caste thing. Yeah, it evolves out of that distinctions, So some craft evolves because of such reasons also. I mean, in the Rabaris, if you have seen the kind of work now that they're doing, with laces and things like that, it came because the men decided that women are spending too much time creating their dowries, embroidery, and they're not going to their in-laws' place. So they said, "Band karo." So then these women said, "No, but we still want to wear, like nice clothes." So they started getting ribbons and laces and things, and they created a whole new form. So it really throws up whole questions of what do we really mean by tradition. There isn't anything like that, actually.
It grows from where you are at that time.
It evolves all the time, because of circumstances and the situations you're, pushed into. And so we wanted to reach, a larger audience apart from, the film has a certain, reach. So we created books for children, and so the same film is also made into a book, which has, you can go through the images at more leisurely pace. And at the end, there is a story about the craft and, about these people. So the publishers did a damn good job of actually explaining, because in the film, we are not able to tell all these things. The film is more like them telling their stories. Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions. Yeah. Yeah.
All of them are very old now. Like, so how it will go ahead, or how is your take or idea on it?
See, I think it's true. I mean, what happened was when the same old people, when they were creating the artifacts, people were rejecting their work because it was not well finished, their eyesight was bad and all. So when they started doing this, they got much more, visibility, and also, people were willing to pay a lot more for their pieces. So it also inspired other people, oh, but they don't have, they will say, but we don't have so many memories, what do we do? So then I remember Judy talking to them and saying, you respond to your environment. That's why you may have seen there were some images about that power plant, which is sitting inside, very close to, their school, Kala Vidya is in the middle of that power plant. Suddenly they started, the power plant took over that land, and we don't know how long that, school will remain there. Because they built a school there, but then, so they started responding to things. Then you saw that one image of people playing music, like, so that's again, they are putting what they are seeing around them. So I guess if people still want those things, like Maggie Ben makes these things even now, like so many people ask me how do I get this? I put them in touch with her, and she gets orders. So I cannot tell you like how long it will last. It lasts as long as people want such things, I guess.
And also it has to flow organically from their lives. Otherwise it sort of ceases. And we have seen it a little bit in other art, like some of the art forms that it sort of ceases to have.
They become templates.
Yes. they become templates.
We've seen that with
so many-
Madhubani paintings
A lot.
and Padachitras. Yeah, it is happening. Yeah.
I just want to ask, with this piece, are they all stitched together onto the main, or they stuck on? Do they generally stitch each individual little piece onto the big cloth, or
Yeah, it's cloth on cloth.
cloth on cloth? Okay.
And I think it just goes from one thing to the other. They don't plan the whole thing. They have a generic idea like I'll put this here, I'll put this here, but then they just
And where do they source their materials from? Is it just pieces of cloth, or?
so I think they buy the fabric like block printed or some. I think it may have started with because they make a lot of bed covers and and things like that, cushion covers. So there's a lot of waste from there. So then they use them.
Okay.
So how did you first come upon, what's your journey into their
Into-
work and their space? Yeah.
So after I had created Mukund and Riaz, the film, I had given it to Judy to watch. So then she said, "Why don't you animate our narrative panels?" And we had a nice discussion as to why do you already have the narrative, so why do you need it to animate? So she said, they said that our voices, when you take an artifact, like you go to a museum, there is an artifact, but there's no voice. You don't know what the maker had in mind, or what they felt about it. So this way their voices would reach other people. So that's how I got roped into it.
So, like you said that they are the waste, like found the fabrics and all that, which they also use to create. So, like I have noticed that, for example, let's say the trees and all. So they have used particular patterned, particular printed kind of fabric that is very relatable to. Okay, it will represent trees the best. So is they do it very consciously, like they choose the fabric very consciously, like, because as a designer we think too much, like how is their thought process over it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we should admit that there is creativity everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not something that only if you go to an art school that you become creative. I think this also happens to people when this is something they have been doing for ages. They have been creating imagery. So for them to it's a different
natural
sensibility.
observation also.
It's something for us to learn. Designers need to learn from the craftsperson, not the other way around. I mean, usually you have
Exactly.
designers going and doing these interventions. I think it should be the other way around.
It is too much to learn just with one artwork here. So, and what are like their take when they see the same art form animated? How?
Yes, so I must tell you that because we stuck to the orientation of things, and so when I showed them the bullock cart, they said barobar che, and then I showed it the same thing in IDC to some of my colleagues, and they looked at it and they said, "What's this, a butterfly?" Because the bullocks are walking sideways, So when we showed this film the premiere happened under the stars in Kacholi on a chadar. They showed the film, and I wasn't there, but Judy had a screening for them, and immediately they called me because they wanted to tell me what they felt, and they said, "How did you put my life in 12 minutes?" How did you compress it so much? And one person said, "This is not a story, it is our history." So I feel this when the community itself claims it as their own, not claiming only in terms of credit. That is one thing, and that must be done. But besides that, this sort of owning it, is so important. For a filmmaker, I think that's the most important thing. That it's actually, if they feel this is their story, then I'm sure it's worth telling. Sorry? You see, because it is an acknowledgement of a life, that we exist, that you have, that it has been duly acknowledged. And I think this kind of assertion of identity is there through their lives, through the clothes that they make, the kind of artifacts they create, and the stories that they recall, all about that.
Do you see the younger generation equally involved in this narrative creation of?
We have to ask the younger people.
No, because we just saw the older ones.
Yeah.
How interested are the younger ones?
The younger ones are interested. Only thing, like they said, they were worried that they did not have enough memories to recall. So because they thought that all these narrative panels are only about memories. But once you have a discussion that, you can actually look at your own current surroundings and make stories about that. So then they started doing stories from Panchatantra and things like that, what they felt like, okay, this is what we can do, So they have attempted that as well. But I don't know, how prevalent that is, yeah.
Thank you.
I really liked the short film and it was really nice. I had a question, a slightly different question from what is being asked. I wanted to know how you connected with them, because we are like city dwellers, we are going in. I know you may have some experience because of your thing, but how did you connect with them? How did they open up to you? What I found very interesting, like the film we saw, we had the earthquake, we had the partition, their story. So, I can go through it in my head and put it out there. But talking it in front of a camera, reliving it in a way, how were you able to, get it from them? How did you actually connect, without, without you being there? It was like, it seemed that they were talking to me. How could you get that thing? Means, I'm taking it from a filmmaker's perspective, how you could get it.
I was very fortunate that I was introduced to them through somebody who knew them so well. So Judy already, was working with them. It's like, somebody brings a guest unknown to you to your house. Somebody just arrives at your house and says, I want to talk to you, you will shut the door. But if somebody brings a friend along and says, I'd like you to meet this one, and you would say, yes, please come, you'll offer them food, you'll talk to them. So I was lucky that, I was introduced. So there was a way of, ushering myself into that space. Other than that, I speak Sindhi. So because I'm, I can speak the language, and they speak Kutchi, which is close to Sindhi. So we kind of spoke also the language. So that also creates a comfort factor. Gujarati, Sindhi, talking together. I was also a woman, so it was the gender also plays a role. So there's so many things that and we spend time. I think if you spend enough time with people, if you go into a long train journey also, by the end of the journey, people are giving you food and looking after your luggage while you go. When you first enter, you don't connect. So you spend time. You people open up and they start talking, and the thing is, we had the work. Now that work was very interesting, because not only were there memories that were that they had put out, but while talking about it, like she's showing me the work, and she's saying, yeah, first she's describing, yeah, so that I know what's what. Then she said this had happened. Then she's telling things which are not there, but she is recalling, and then suddenly she's reflecting on that of things she didn't reflect before. And it's recalling some other memory. She said, oh, I forgot to put that. So multiple memories are invoked just by, it's like you take a photo album of your family, and you say that, okay, I was here. So first you describe this was taken in this year, we went there, and then you say, before that, before you took that picture, you had a fight with somebody. So that whole narrative kind of, unfolds. So I think these are very good prompts, and they themselves had created it. So it was very interesting. And so she not only spoke about the whole, remembering how she visualized this, so pehle wo, which is easier to talk about. And then slowly you start talking about it, and they would pause with emotion. They wouldn't want to speak. And you sit down and you wait. You have to. then only the next, you can't go on just asking questions, and that doesn't work. It doesn't give you anything. So you have to wait. And
let me ask you a related.
Yeah.
So my related question is, and it's because it's something that I often experience with people, is that when you went into a project like this, what did you have a clear idea of outcome, or did you allow the outcome to emerge?
Not at all. I had no clue. I had no clue what I was going to do. I was just pushed into this, like, you made this film, now you make another film like this. But there was no straight narrative. They were talking about so many things. So we came back with a lot of data and no idea, and lot of images, beautiful images. We've scanned every possible thing that they had. And we thought, okay, let's list down what all do we have to tell through this story. And then it occurred to me that, in India, when we speak, we don't allow people to finish their sentences. So let's use the conversation structure as a way to digress from one thing to the other. So while they're talking, one person is talking, the other one cuts through and talks about something else. And you don't mind it, because that's exactly how we speak. We don't allow, the only time I've been allowed to finish my sentences is when I'm here like this, and you're listening to me. Otherwise, I've never been able to complete any sentence of mine. So the structure evolved out of frustration, like, how do we tell so many things? It evolves gradually, because you spend, like, first of all, you spend time over there. Then you come back and you spend time because you're transcribing everything. So you're reading. You're also recalling more things that you saw, that are there in the images, which can, be utilized. And so you spend time with your material, and then it starts speaking to you. Just like a researcher, you start teasing things out of there, and okay, it's saying this to me. So that's how, and this only comes like a narrative. Yeah.
And how much time did the whole process take?
So we took 1 year to do this. I know it took long, but it takes time. And after we came back, I didn't look at my material for 1 month. I was so overwhelmed, so I just put it away. And Judy would call and say, so, yeah, we are transcribing, it's happening, the work is happening,
So from this 1 year, how much was actual filmmaking and how much was research part? Like, connecting with your
So, you see, we had to do two things. We had to have conversations going, and a person gets tired talking to you the whole day. Yeah? They can't talk to you the whole day. They tell you, jao, bhi kuch karo. So we would scan their artworks. We couldn't take their artworks out of them. They had one A4 scanner, and their works were like 7 feet long, 4 feet wide. So we would spend, whenever there was electricity, because that would also go off now and then. So we would sit and scan those images. And while we were scanning those, they would come and say, ye nahi dikhaya maine, ye bhi dalo, so we would scan those. So so it wasn't, there's no like this much time on scripting and this, everything is happening like simultaneously. Simultaneously, we are also animating and showing them, do you like it? Like, what do you feel about it? Or, I asked, like, how do you know this is a good piece, that one on partition? So she said, this is good, this is bad. So I said, what is bad about this? Isme wo milestone hai. There's a milestone which was this side is India, that side is Pakistan. And if it's not there, then it's a bad piece. She's not looking at craftsmanship. She's looking at what all is. So that was so fascinating. So, you're constantly learning, and, so we would spend, we probably spent 15 days with them, and then that was it. Then we came back and we spent 1 month just transcribing everything and then creating a storyboard, then went back to them to show the storyboard, because there were things that were recorded, that were spoken by them, but were not recorded. Now we had to go back and ask. There were some things that never got recorded, because this lady, they're showing off, how much they think about their work. So one of them said that, when I was working on this piece, I didn't sleep the whole night. The other one said, "Ek raat kya, main to 7 raat nahi soi," So I thought that was so nice. But we didn't record. That was just conversation, So when we went back, I said, "Now you can't tell that sentence, no? That's not how it works." So we said, "You remember you said something about not sleeping, you were saying." She said, "Aisa maine kab bola?" She said, "If I don't sleep, how will I live?" So she changed the whole thing. So people don't always say the same things again. So recording is very crucial, So you record while you can and make sure the battery is there. Half the time, she said a very nice thing. Her husband is telling her, "Tu ऐसा करेगी अंधेरे में तो तू मर जाएगी." So she said, "ये नहीं करूँगी तो मैं मर जाऊँगी," So it was such a lovely thing, but our batteries had died at that point. So that sentence was lost. It's there with me at least. Yeah.
So I know that you explored some works in a particular geography of India, but have you explored, have you gone further east?
East, I would like to go, but the language is an issue. So unless I have somebody who can, I want to go to Bengal, for instance. That's something I want to do with the Katha.
Also the potter.
Yeah.
Because they sing their stories.
Yeah.
And they may have the whole.
But I'm more interested in the Katha artists because the thing that I want to explore is their dilemma of whom to teach, because their children are not wanting to learn. So they have a lot of dilemmas of whom they should teach. So I want to keep that kind of a conversation going. So I've already done some groundwork because I had somebody with me who could speak Bangla and get the... But I think, why I stuck to Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh is I can speak the language. So it endears you to people, if you speak their language. I mean, they feel comfortable talking.
Even if you go further north, there's the Chamba. And they also do the embroidery.
Yeah, Chamba Rumals. Yeah. Somebody else can also do.
You do it so well.
Yeah.
Are you carrying any of your other little films?
Yes, I have.
Can we ask you to show another?
I can show Mukund and Riaz.
Please.
Would you like to see that one?
Yeah.
Because that's again related. It's before this film.
Mukund and Riaz were the best of friends, although they would occasionally play together. Riaz loved Mukund's cap and tried hard to get at it. This cricket cap was Mukund's prized possession. With a cap on, he felt he could do anything. Well, just about. Riaz took Mukund to a traditional bone setter who lived in the Kyamari area close to the harbour. For his fees, he asked for the good wishes of those who got cured. If they wished him well, that kept his talent alive. However, if Mukund was very keen to pay, he could slip something into the box quietly. Mukund loved cricket and tried hard to get Riaz to play with them. But Riaz's interests lay elsewhere. Suddenly, a military van pulled up on Campbell Street and a soldier ordered them to stop playing and go home at once. Riaz said it was best to keep out of trouble and to move off. Their spirits picked up with the smell of the bakery. And it didn't take much time to enjoy the best things life could offer. Mukund's was a large family, and each one took on some responsibility. Mukund often sat in front of the Gurudwara on Campbell Street and looked after people's shoes. Near the Gurudwara was the famous Ladaram Faluda Wala. Mukund was always fascinated by his multicolored concoctions. Ladaram was fond of the boy and told Mukund that if he served iced water to the devotees, it would earn him some blessings. Ladaram took it upon himself to supply the iced water. In this way, they were both stocking up some merit points for the future. At the end of the day, Ladaram would give Mukund the bucket of water that he took home to his family. When Mukund could get a moment alone with the mirror, his precious cricket cap brought on visions of his future. Then came the day Mukund would not talk about for 60 years of his life. It began like any other day at the S.C. Sahani High School, except that the teacher was missing. So everyone did what they pleased. Riaz came in and whispered. It did not make any sense. On the street, nothing looked the same, and Mukund could not recognize anyone. At home, Mukund's father said they had to leave. It was Riaz knocking at the door, and he had brought kurtas and jinnah caps to help them disguise themselves. Mukund refused to remove his cap. Riaz drove them to the Karachi harbour. Their gratitude had no words. They did not know what to say. Mukund looked at Riaz, and then he remembered. Mukund and Riaz never met again. But to this day, Mukund remembers him waving at him from the shore that was once home. Waving, waving for an eternity.
आप रेडी हैं क्या? तो शुरू कीजिए।
सदा भवानी दायमी सुनमुख रेत गणेश पांचों देव रक्षा करेर ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश। ये कावड़ श्रवण कावड़िए की है।
वही रामायण के श्रवण ना, जिसके माता पिता की आंखें नहीं थी?
हाँ, ये तो वही पण, लेकिन पता है कि वो शुरू से अंधे नहीं थे।
अच्छा, तो उनकी आंखों को क्या हुआ?
वो दान में दे दी, त्याग दी थी।
क्यों?
वो मैं बताता हूँ कि उसके पुत्र नहीं था। उसके पुत्र नहीं होने के वजह से उसने तपस्या करी, भगवान विष्णु के पास तपस्या करके वचन लिया। भगवान बोला कि भाई पुत्र जरूर होगा, पर उसका मुंह नहीं देख सकोगे। इसी कारण से वो आपकी आंख है वो भी दान में दे दी। उसी तरीके से ये अंधे हुए। पर मेरी कहानी में तो ऐसा नहीं।
अच्छा, इसमें अलग है, वेरिएंट हैं, तो बताइए।
श्रवण के पिता धनिष्ठा था, तो वहाँ विष्णु भगवान के पास में गया कि मुझे तपस्या करनी है। तो विष्णु भगवान ने ऑर्डर कर दिया कि जाओ आप रामनगरी है, वहाँ जाकर के तपस्या करें। तो वहाँ धनिष्ठा जी चल पड़े। वहाँ जाकर के गुफा में तपस्या शुरू कर दी। पास में राजा दशरथ जी का महल था। महल के तीसरे मंजिल में कुंवारी कन्या रहती है, शतभिक्षा जी। एक समय ऐसा हुआ तो शतभिक्षा जी ने गंदी नाली का कचरा काटते थे, तो उस गंदी नाली का बूंद धनिष्ठा जी के सिर पे पड़ जाता है। तो वहाँ आशा जाग जाती है। तो उसमें से उसकी नाभि कमल से एक बेल निकलती है। घर वाले लोग उसी बेल के अंदर जल चढ़ाने शुरू कर दिए। तो धीरे धीरे वो बेल बढ़ती दूसरी मंजिल पे जा पहुंची। शतभिक्षा के कमरे जाकर के उसने डोडा निकाला, तो सूर्य नारायण की किरण लागने से फूल बन गया। फूल के अंदर ऐसी खुशबू थी, अंतर सुगंधित। तो शतभिक्षा ने सोचा कि ये क्या है, तो उसका फूल को मिचल करके सूंघ लिया। सूंघने से उसी दिन से उसको वहाँ आशा रह गई थी। आशा रह गई तो 2 महीने 4 महीने बीत गए और परिवार वाले लोग ने विचार किया ये क्या बात। अच्छा, राजा दशरथ जी सीता जी को ऑर्डर करता है कि शतभिक्षा जी जाकर के पूछो ये आपसे क्या बात है। तो शतभिक्षा जी बोल के कहते हैं कि मेरे पास कोई इंसान पुरुष नहीं आते हैं, मैंने इस बेल का फूल की खुशबू सूंघने से मेरे आशा रह गई। सीता जी ध्यान दे करके देखा तो वहाँ धनिष्ठा जी नजर आए थे। तो वहाँ जाकर के राजा दशरथ जी को और भगवान को बोलते हैं, हे प्रभु वहाँ तो एक पुरुष बैठा है, उसका पता करो। तो राजा दशरथ जी और भगवान दोनों ही जाते हैं। तो उस गुफा के अंदर धनिष्ठा जी मिल जाता है। तो धनिष्ठा जी को बोलते हैं कि मेरी बहन से आपने पाप लगाया, कुंवारी कन्या से आपको शादी करनी पड़ेगी। तो उसने शादी मंजूर कर ली और बताया कि भाई आपकी बहन वहाँ से मेरे पाप लगाया है, उसका मैं मुंह नहीं देखूंगी। तो उसने अपनी आँखियाँ निकाल करके त्याग कर दिया। और वो समाचार जा कर के शतभिक्षा जी को बोला कि पुरुष तो मिल गया, आपके साथ शादी हो जाएगी, पर वो कहते आपकी बहन का मुंह नहीं देखेंगे। तो शतभिक्षा जी बोलते हैं मैं भी उसका मुंह नहीं देखूंगी, मैं दूसरे मंजिल में बैठी थी तो भी मेरे ये पाप लगवा दिया था। तो उनको भी आंखें काट करके और सूरदासों ने अंधे आदमियों को दान दे दिया। तो उसके साथ शादी हो गई थी। इसी तरह वो दोनों ही अंधे हो गए और उसके बाद में श्रवण का जन्म हो जाता है।
पर बात तो वही हुई, अंधे तो हुए,
लेकिन एक ने तो प्यार से त्याग दी और दूसरे ने गुस्से में त्याग दी।
लेकिन इसमें कावड़ कहाँ से आई?
ये कावड़ या वो कावड़?
वैसे श्रवण थोड़ा सा बड़ा या और वैसे सोचने लगा कि मेरे माता पिता को ये नैण मेरे कारण से किए हुए अंधे हो गए। तो श्रवण भगवान विष्णु के पास गया। भगवान विष्णु को पूछा, हे महाराज, ये मेरे माता पिता मेरे कारण से अंधे हुए, तो क्या करूं मैं, ये नैण कब खुलेगा? तो भगवान विष्णु बोला, देखो आपने जैसे कावड़ बनवाओ, कावड़ बनवा के आप 84 धाम पर तीर्थ करवाओ, जब उनके नैण खुल जाएगा। तो श्रवण ने कावड़ बनवा के और तीर्थ यात्रा पर चल पड़ी।
पर मेरी कहानी में तो ऐसा नहीं।
फिर से वेरिएंट।
हर बात में दो बात होती है।
फिर आगे बताओ ना।
श्रवण के घरवाली रेवती अपने सासू ससुर की देख रेख अच्छी नहीं करी थी।
अच्छा, माता पिता को साधारण और श्रवण को अच्छा खाना।
हाँ, तो श्रवण को सामने आ गई थी। तो श्रवण को सोचा कि भाई ये तो सारा पाप मेरे ऊपर हो गया। तो जा कर के पूछता है विष्णु भगवान को, ये प्रभु मेरे माता पिता का इतना मेरे ऊपर दोष है, तो ये इसका फर्ज कैसे उतारूं? तो विष्णु ने बताया, तुम कावड़ गड़ा करके अपने माता पिता को पैदल यात्रा कंधे पे लेकर के 84 यात्रा कराओगे तो अपना फर्ज उतर जाएगी। तो वहाँ से श्रवण अपने माता पिता की कावड़ आला लीला बांस कटाया कावड़ ली गड़ाई। कावड़ में माता पिता को बिठा करके लारले पाप के और आगले धर्म के ऐसे करके वहाँ रवाना हो गया।
फिर वही बात तो वही हुई, यात्रा के लिए चल पड़े।
फिर भी एक में तो वो प्यार से गए और दूसरे में प्रायश्चित करने के लिए गए।
आगे क्या हुआ?
श्रवण तीर्थ यात्रा पर चल पड़ी और चलते चलते माता को प्यास लगी।
श्रवण क्या है कि एक आंबे के पेड़ पे कावड़ टांग देता है और जल की तुम्बी लेकर के समुद्र निकल जाता है।
नाडी में जैसे पानी जारी डुबोई तो जारी की आवाज़ निकली। तो वैसे राजा दशरथ जी ने सोचा भाई कोई जानवर पानी पी रहा है,
और थोड़ी सी आवाज़ आई तो राजा दशरथ ने धनुष चलाया कि श्रवण के कलेजे लागा। दौड़ के राजा दशरथ वहाँ गए कि ओहो अपने भांजे को मार ली।
तो भांजा बोला, मेरे माता पिता बहुत प्यासे हैं, उनको जाके जल्दी पानी पिलाओ।
तो राजा दशरथ जी वहाँ जल की जारी लेकर के रवाना हो गया। वो बहन बहनोई को जाकर के बोलते हैं,
उनके पास बैठ गया, ले माता पिता ये ठंडी जारी लाया, पानी पियो।
तो वो कहते आप कौन हो? कि मैं राजा दशरथ। तो भाई मेरा श्रवण कैसे नहीं आया? श्रवण मेरे हाथों से काम आ गया, और बहन बहनोई आप पानी पी लो और मुझे माफ़ी दे दो।
इसमें कोई वेरिएंट नहीं है?
ठहरो मैं बताता हूँ कि श्रवण के माता पिता राजा दशरथ को श्राप देते हैं कि जैसे ही हम पुत्र के लिए तरस के मरा, जैसे ही आप मरोगे।
ये राजा दशरथ है, श्रवण के धनुष चलाता है। श्रवण की माता पिता बोलती है कि जैसे मेरा श्रवण खत्म हुआ, जैसे आपकी मृत्यु होगी।
यहाँ कंक्लूजन तो सेम हो गया। फिर
श्रवण के पुत्र था ज्येष्ठा जी, जिसने कावड़ बनाई। गांव गांव में जाकर के फिर के कावड़ बाजते थे और पूजा भी करते थे उनके परिवार के लोग। हम
आपकी कावड़ तो अलग है, आपके पास ये कावड़ कहाँ से आई?
ये कावड़ मैंने दी है।
आप कौन हैं?
मैं कुंदना बाई हूँ।
हाँ, कुंदना बाई काशी की है, हमने कावड़ दी थी।
लेकिन आप हैं कहाँ?
वो मैं बताता हूँ। कुंदना बाई ये अंदर है, इनका चेहरा हर इंसान को दर्शन नहीं कर सकते। ये कुंदना बाई।
और
ये भी कुंदना बाई है।
और ये भी
कुंदना बाई है।
ऐसे कैसे?
इनको भगवान का वरदान है। 3 रूप धारण करती है ये। सुबह छोटी कन्या बनती है, दोपहर को जवान बनती है, शाम की समय 60 साल की बुढ़िया बनती है, और सुबह और जन्म लेती है 7 साल की जितनी बन जाती है।
सच? मुझे नहीं पता था।
बार बार उनका जन्म क्यों होता है?
पवित्र बनने के लिए बच्चे का जन्म धारण करना
जरूरी होता है।
बार बार जन्म?
मुझे तो ये सारी कहानी के बारे में ही लग रही है। कहानी कभी खत्म नहीं होती, सिर्फ समय के अनुसार बदलती है। उसका रोज नया जन्म होता है ना?
हाँ, बात वही है।
Yeah, this 2011. Yeah, this was when I was doing my research on this community. Actually, I have a book also, which was a part of my thesis. So this is the whole book on the whole community. But it was a way of understanding, you know, this making the film together gave me a lot of insights into why they, you know, they still have this tradition and what it means to them, and so on. Yeah. Yeah, Sunita? Huh?
I said it was interesting to see the 3 films because you can see a trajectory.
Yeah.
Because the Mukund, your father's story was one of the first ones, right?
First
And this
one.
comes later, and then the one you just showed us in the beginning.
Then comes Tako, and then comes this.
Ah, okay.
Tako Boleche happened in between.
I see, I
Yeah.
see. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
How did you get these people to, I mean, this is scripted, obviously. So how did you work out the dialogues?
Well, because they had told this story to me so many times, you know, and we've been known each other for like 2-3 years, you know. I traveled with them to their patrons, you know. I recorded in their homes and in their patrons' home. We stayed in hotels and dharamshalas. I mean, we kind of traveled together. We ate together. So there was this comfort by then. It took 2 years to build that rapport because, first of all, they're like, why do you want to know? What are you going to do? And because this itinerant, profession, they are afraid that people might think that, that somebody might tell on them or rat on them or tell the police that they're doing these things or whatever, because they will write in their story box at the bottom, that you have to pay, this is the Dan Peti, Government of India. So it's a way of, like they go to a village and say, you have to give me donations. So they were really scared that I might, expose them or something. So it took some time, but yeah, it's again there I was introduced to them through the people who make the covers, from whom they buy. And I met them through another artist whom I knew, Kalyan Joshi. I knew him from before. So he introduced me to these guys. I think you always need somebody to introduce, like a gatekeeper or whatever you want to call them, to introduce you to the people. They take you, it's easy. They don't get so suspicious of you otherwise. Otherwise, it's very hard. I mean, I would not want somebody to just enter my house and say, "Can I watch you eat, drink, sleep?" I mean, why? You'd say, "Why? Why will I let you do that?" So, but that is what we are doing, in our work. But the stories that they told, so that told a lot about the communities and what, where they saw themselves. Like in the coward, you can actually, a patron can get themselves painted. So it's like paying for page 3 or something, like you're in there with the gods and everything. And then the storyteller will come to you and say, this is you, So you feel very empowered in that sense, and not only that, he tells you you're a Jat, you came from the Jatas of Shiva. So that's why you're a Jat, So there's an elevation of status, through this kind of storytelling. So he doesn't care if the government calls him OBC. For him, he is the progeny of Shravan. And Shravan is made a nephew of Dashrath, which makes the Shravan a cousin of Ram, which means it makes his progeny, the storyteller, very close to Ram, you see. So there's that kind of kinship bonds being created, which are very important for their self-identity and self-worth, So those stories become interesting in that way, Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.